Hello, welcome to the video. We're going to be looking at creating a REST API using Flask and Python, and then we're going to deploy it to Google Cloud Platform. We're also going to make it do some machine learning sentiment analysis for us. So if that's of interest, keep watching. So the first half of this video is going to look at how to build a REST API with Python. Then the second half will look at deploying it to Google Cloud Platform. In this video, we're going to look at what is an API. Why is an API not the same as CRUD? Then we're going to write the code for machine learning sentiment analysis as a REST API. And then we're going to deploy it to Google Cloud Platform. So an application programming interface is a connection between computers or computer programs. It is a type of software interface offering a service to other pieces of software. That's Wikipedia's definition. As you can see from the image, an API acts a bit like a waiter, as an intermediary between you, the customer, and the chef or the resource in the background that you actually want to get. So there we go. Let's carry on. So why is an API not the same as CRUD? Create, read, update, delete. So all four of those major functions are for interacting with database applications, and an API does not have to provide those. It can be used for many more things. So as it says here in this article, REST APIs can still expose functionality not corresponding to CRUD, so long as they use the appropriate HTTP or HTTPS method. So the main part of this video will be using Python and Flask to create a REST API which will enable us to communicate with our sentiment analysis machine learning model, which will then be able to provide us a response which tells us whether our input was negative or positive. And then once we've done that, we'll create requirements.txt, we'll create a Docker file, and then we'll use gcloud app deploy to deploy our model to Google Cloud, and then we'll test it. Okay, so I did a test before I made this video. So using gcloud app deploy, I deployed my first attempt. So this, what you're about to see, is a recording of that. As stated, you'll need to sign up for a free Google Cloud trial account. Once it's set up, you get a URL which is effectively exposed to the World Wide Web. This is the test syntax. You could use Postman or Insomnia. You do need to pass it several words. It can get confused if you only pass it one word. Obviously it's a sentiment analysis analyzer, so sentiment pretty much needs to be more than one word. Okay, so now you've seen the code working, what I want to do is actually go back and refactor it and just quickly cover NLTK. So the whole purpose of this project is to do sentiment analysis on whatever we want to pass to it. So as you've seen already, we get a negative or a positive response from what we put in the URL or that we'll pass to it using the API. That's the whole point, you're going to use the API. So NLTK, the Natural Language Toolkit. NLTK is an open source Python library for natural language processing. And yeah, we're going to be using Vader. And Vader, if you use sentiment, blah, 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 it's a parsimonious rule-based model. Parsimonious rule-based model for sentiment analysis of social media text. Written in 2014. As you can see, it uses math, regular expressions, string, iter tools. Empirically derived mean sentiment intensity rating increase for booster words. Okay. Yeah, we're not going to dwell on that, but just be aware that there is documentation out there for it. Example usage of NLTK models. Right, let's go back to the code. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and refactor what you saw working earlier in the video. So paste in the old code. And we can immediately get rid of those two because they weren't used. We can get rid of request. And the whole point here is that we're going to be using, let me just bring this back across, Flask RESTful. Now, Flask RESTful lets you use, well, I'll read this. An extension that adds support for quickly building REST APIs, lightweight abstraction that works with your existing ORM libraries, encouraging best practice with minimal setup. If we just look at an example, we'll just quickly look at that, and you can see class. So we're using a class which actually it saves us using a wrapper, and it makes the whole code a lot more readable. So this is probably the correct or the most readable, neat way of doing this. So let's carry on. What we'll do is we will then, I've already imported it, so I just did pip install flask _ RESTful, but what we need to now do is say we need to go and import it in our script. So we say from flask _ RESTful import, and we can import resource. So if you're familiar with APIs, you have endpoints and you have resources. We are creating the resource, and we're going to import recpass. Now recpass eventually is going to get superseded, and they recommend using Marshmallow, but we're not too concerned with that just yet. So API equals API app. So our variable is equal to an instance of this, which again, Flask, we're referencing the actual Flask project. Right, next, what we need to do is we need to get rid of that. We're also, let's grade it out. Let me just, so if we do this one first, as you saw in the example, we can now get rid of the wrapper. The class will save having to use that. We can remove that. We'll remove that for now. And first thing we want to do is we want to, let's just, for temporarily, I'm just going to create class sentiment analysis, and then you put resource in there, colon, and right. I'm going to indent all that, and we'll see why next, because we're going to do def, just call it get, and then self. Oh, so far so good. And then we need to handle the argument passing. So before we complete the class with all of its method, we would say, let's add a comment, argument passing, and parser, which we've imported from, well, what we're going to, parser is our variable, and we're going to use recpass. So parser equals recpass dot, obviously vscode offers us the nice auto completion. Then we say parser add underscore argument. There we go, autocomplete again. And we're just going to, the key for our query is just going to be Q. And we can also put help in here, help message. So help equals pass a sentence to analyze. Good, right. So that's outside of the class. Now inside of the class we've used def get. Before we do the NLTK sentiment analysis part, we actually need to then say args equals parser dot parse args, and then sentence, this is our variable name, equals to, and then we want to get the value of the key being Q. Okay, just a note. Use pass. Find the user's query. Should probably put a doc string in here, really, but generate doc string. Okay, so lines 30 down to 36 is what actually does all the magic. And now we want to return, we don't just want to return positive or negative, we want to put it into a dictionary and then return the dictionary. So instead, if score is greater than 0, so then we say output, which is our dictionary name. Sentiment, that's the dictionary key. And then positive. So we're setting the value of the dictionary and then we'll return that at the end. So same as above, but we'll say negative here. Negative. And then we just return JSONify. The reason we need to use JSONify is otherwise it will just return a string. JSONify will return it as, it serializes it as an actual JSON object. Okay, good. Then we can remove because we've used parser up above, we can remove, we're not going to worry about post and get. You don't, because I'll show you what we're about to do here, obviates the need for that. So we'll say API.add_resource, and then you pass the class name, which we've created, obviously, and then the /, which just means there's no more, there's nothing else further in the URL to append. I've got a rogue square bracket there, sorry about that. So yeah, line 42, we don't need to use, we're not passing get or post, we just use this without get or post, it's implicit. And I think that's now good to run. Should we test this? And so far so good, follow the link. That's looking good already. You probably think, why is this saying it looks good if it's right, I'm just going to go back to GitHub, and because I'm lazy, I'm just going to go and copy and paste rather than type it all in there. What I could do is actually use Insomnia. Right, just paste that in there. That's my preset query. And text string to check sentiment is negative. Okay. Hello, it is a nice day. That should be positive. Yeah. And you see, because we use JSON stringify, we've got it back as JSON. the raw data. There you go. If we'd not used JSON, it just would have said positive. There's the headers, application JSON for the content type. Yeah, that's all good. Okay, so as long as you've created a virtual environment or are using Conda, you can follow these instructions. If not, then I'll put a link to creating a virtual environment in the description. So next we need to create a Docker file and follow the rest of the documentation. So this is the link that you can refer to with all of the Google instructions. There's a free tutorial which you can also use. We'll be doing this example in vscode, but the example with Google works just the same. Files required, requirements.txt, main.py, which is our main Flask file, and Docker file. A Docker file you can get from this link. You can copy that exactly, it will work for you. You don't need to fully understand or do a tutorial on Docker. What it actually does is it goes off and gets Python. So there we go, we've got the 3 files which we need, so let's get on and actually deploy it. Okay, so on the screen you can see we've got the main.py, which is what we've got in the big window here, the Docker file, which I've shown you the screenshots of, and the requirements.txt, which is basically pip freeze. And then what we need to do is, given that we've got the 4 main files needed to deploy to Cloud Run, let's drag this across, and I've opened up my Google Cloud Platform console. If you have a Gmail address, you can sign up for this and you get $300 of free credit. So I'm assuming you've done that already if you want to follow along. Now, I've already got NLTK 001. That was my first attempt at deploying a project like this. So let's make a new project, 002. And new project even. NLTK 002. Organization is 0, is empty. Okay, create. I'm just going to close this shell just so. And you can see the disk at the top, it's just whizzing round, and we're in a project. Billing, you do need billing enabled, but for this it should already be. Okay. Let's go down to Cloud Run. This is where we're going to deploy it to. And this was my trial version, which you've already seen working. So first I need to stop that. So let's go into it. Delete. Service deleted. Okay, that was the old one. Right, now let's switch to the new project, the blank one, which we want to set up. And if we go to activate Cloud Shell, here we go. So the first thing we want to do is clone our repo. So git clone. Let's go back to get the full path. I just want to check I've got, no, I've not got the most up-to-date Flask, so I just need to do something here, which is to update the requirements.txt. Okay, so we've got a blank project here, NLTK 002. I've got the shell open here within the Google Cloud Console. But what I want to do is actually deploy from vscode. So 4 files there. Now, there's a plugin or an extension which you need to enable, which is Cloud Code. If you click on it, you will need to go View, Editor, Appearance, Show Status Bar, like that, and then you click Cloud Code. Then Deploy to Cloud Run, the bottom choice, and then wheels will start turning. And I can see here it's chosen the wrong project. So I've clicked on that little icon and now I've got a drop down and I need to choose my project which I've just created, NLTK 02. And you can see it's updated. So now to deploy to Cloud Run, you need to enable the Cloud Run API in NLTK 002. You can enable it from VS Code, which is what I've just clicked on. So yeah, the one thing I've glossed over is the fact you need to add an extension into VS Code if you want to do it the VS Code way. So create a service. Select an existing Cloud Run service or create a new one. If you click on the plus, create a new service. You see there's no existing one, which is good. Service name is going to be Sentiment Analysis Flask API. Deployment platform, Cloud Run fully managed. And region, I want to choose Europe West 2 because it's closest to me. Scroll down. Allow unauthenticated invocations. Check this if you are creating a public API or website. Yes, it is going to be public, so that's checked. Container image, build environment. Here we go. Use your locally installed build tools such as Docker, Bazel, Maven, or Gradle to execute the build. So yeah, we've created the Docker file, which you can see down here. The Docker file is something which I'm not going to cover in this video, but as you can see, it's within the repo. So if you want to copy what I've done here, then feel free to copy my Docker file. And build it as Docker file. And let's try and go for some deploy. As soon as you click that, you get prompted to start Docker. Okay, please check the open terminal and press enter, waiting for Docker to start. And what it's telling us is that if we go to the console, we need to click enter to actually set Docker running. So Docker is now started, and this does take quite a while. And just for the sake of this video, I'm going to click Show Detailed Logs. And we can see the progress. And this is what we wanted to see. Sentiment Analysis Flask API revision has been deployed. Service URL. Follow link. And believe it or not, this is a very good sign. So what we'll do is I'm going to just move this out of the way, and we're going to go back to let's go back to what's going on here. There we go. So if we just refresh this, I'm just going to verify in the Cloud Console, the Google Cloud Console, that we've got. Here we go. Last deployed 1 minute ago. So this is our new project 002. It's been deployed, and it's connecting the shell. Good. Right. Let's just go and inspect the details. I think it was struggling to keep up. So anyway, back here, follow the link, and we need to send a query, which will look something like there we go. We've deployed our machine learning sentiment analysis, and nice day today is positive. So let's say not very good is it. And even though we've got good within the string, because we've got the not, it knows it's negative. So there we go. As you've seen in the preview earlier, we know it works. So to summarize, in this video, what I've actually done is refactor the original code, which I've forked from GitHub. And I've deployed it using deploy to Cloud Run within VSCode. Yeah, I updated requirements.txt because we added in Flask RESTful. So say the one thing I haven't really covered in great detail is Docker, because it's a big topic and I thought it was beyond the scope of this video, and I'm not going to pretend to be an expert at it. So the Docker file you can copy from my RGGH page anyway. It's pretty much good to go for you. So if you go back to my RGGH page, sentiment analysis Flask API. So originally I forked it from here, but it's changed considerably now. So if you want to do what I've done, then you will need to use my version, because obviously I've added in Flask RESTful, which meant that I had to use a class, and then we didn't need to use the app wrapper for the routing. So I think that's quite a nice outcome to the overall project. Okay, so now we've deployed our REST API, let's test it. And this is the way we will want to use it in Anger. So first thing I want to do is get that URL from here. So let's just copy and paste that, which we were kindly provided with by vscode and by Google. So the first thing I'm just going to say, first things first, import requests. Just make that a bit bigger as well. URL equals, there we go. So I've just pasted that from VS Code, which VS Code got from Google Cloud Platform. Then params, what's going on there? I think I accidentally held down Shift when I pressed P. Params equals, and then Q, which is our query, equals, we want to just do something slightly testing for it. So let's say something like not very good, is it? Because there's a question mark in there and also there's a negative. So although the word good in there, if it was really poorly written and performed badly, then it would just find the word good and it would say it was positive. So then we want to say answer equals requests dot get, and then we're going to say URL, and then params, can't type today, params equals params, and answer, and then we want to print answer.text. Answer.text should be a JSONified response, so there should be a key and a value, key being sentiment and the value being positive, no, negative. So it should say sentiment : negative. Let's run it. We've got an error. Why is that? I always do that. It get so used to using equals and colons and right. Let's run it again. There we go. So let's test it some more. So sentiment is negative because it's not very good, is it? So let's try something also a bit more subtle. Quite good, is it? Actually, that's a question. So let's just make it a statement. Do I need to do an escape there? Possibly. Let's try that. Positive. Quite good, isn't it? So let's do something a bit more taxing for it. And let's say Python 360 videos are fairly interesting. So that should be positive. Good, it is. Let's say not always. So I would say that's negative because that's kind of not always interesting, which implies can be boring. Negative, excellent. Invariably, whoever taught Vader or did all the machine learning is, I'll take my hat off to them. Positive, even though there's a typo there. Let's say do somewhat, or invariably somewhat interesting. So that means that quite often they are quite interesting. So that should be positive. Yeah, good. So I think that's a very successful project. We've written a Flask API, a REST API using Python and Flask. We've created a requirements.txt. We've created a Docker file, and with from within VS Code, we've deployed to Google Cloud Platform. Obviously went into Google Cloud Platform to create the new project, but that's all we did within Google Cloud Platform. So we've pretty much automated most of the process, other than a couple of mouse clicks which we had to do within VS Code. So I think that's a very successful project, and yeah, I'm really pleased with that. And hopefully you would like to copy this, copy my code, go through the same steps, sign up for Google Cloud Platform. You get 3 months or $300 credit. Just keep an eye on your credit, because if you leave things running, then it could burn up all your credit, and then obviously you've lost opportunities to experiment and learn more things. But Thank you for watching and see you next time.